The police officers did not have cameras on them, or they did not have the cameras on. I'm sure we'll get more information about what the DA will reveal at least a little bit more information.
And she was heard on that video that you're talking about saying, "Why are they shooting him? Why are they shooting him?" Because he was running away. And I think for anybody who saw that video, they probably had the same question. And it's been a police department saying that basically lambasting the media for the coverage, but the coverage and the protests that have been happening for the last couple of days, basically lambasting the media for the coverage, but the coverage and the protests that have been happening for the last couple of days is most likely what got the attention of the district attorney.
Yeah, so when the district attorney gets up there, we will head back there live to get that information. For now, though, good morning, everyone. I'm Anne-Marie Green.
And I'm Vladimir Jutit. Thanks for joining us. We're going to begin this hour with this stunning defeat ahead of this year's midterm elections.
Start the bad news with good news.
28-year-old
really
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez defeated 10-term Congressman Joe Crowley.
Can't wait till we get to the story they actually promised us.
Check it out. She's like, what? She's like, what? She had her mouth covered. She couldn't believe it. She's a former Bernie Sanders organizer who just as recently as I love that expression. Yeah. It is a wonderful story. No matter where you sit on the political divide, to see somebody making this
story of hope.
So great all day, but,
right before they go to a story of despair.
But
so
to see
I understand why they're doing it.
Like, and in numbers was really astonishing.
Did you think you had a real shot at winning?
I always felt like we had a shot and that we had a possibility to win, always, from day one.
To help us break down this race, we are joined now by CBS News. Chief Congressional Correspondent Nancy Cordes on Capitol Hill.
Maybe. Says they're live.
Even more so because he was working to sort of cement support for a possible run for Democratic
Okay.
Who was very charismatic, burst despite being outspent by something like 8.
A fascist organization.
Where we're getting an update on.
It's fired. The area is a concern to the police for previously other crimes there, including major crimes. 6 communities that surround North Braddock Borough have a mutual aid agreement, which means that when something bad happens in that community, then the other 6 communities will support that police department. At 8:29, a witness tells North Braddock Police that shots are fired by a passenger in a car and fired at particular persons. 911 further describes vehicle. The description of the vehicle is wrong. They describe it as a gold Mercury. They also describe the direction the vehicle left the area. At 8:30, a victim, a white male, is identified. 911 indicates gunshot wound to the abdomen. Ultimately, it's determined there's a grazing wound across the stomach that may be attributable to a bullet, may be attributable to a fragment from a building. Now, these matters, obviously, evidence continues to be developed. So as more evidence is developed, the description of the vehicle becomes a light gold Chevy Cruze. The scene is secured by the Allegheny County Police shortly after the incident takes place. The Allegheny County Police, by the way, handle major crimes outside the city of Pittsburgh throughout Allegheny County.
You can see he's trying very hard not to show his emotions.
The victim, the person that was grazed across the stomach, is treated and released. There is video surveillance at this intersection. That video is attached as an exhibit to the criminal complaint, actually to the affidavit of the criminal complaint. What it shows is the Cruze comes up Baldridge. There are 3 occupants in the car: driver, front seat passenger, rear passenger side. The rear window comes down. A handgun goes out that window and opens fire on somebody at the corner. We believe we know who the target is, but the target is not identified in the affidavit. The person who is shooting the weapon has a dark-colored T-shirt on. The passenger in the front seat has a white T-shirt on. There's a man in North Braddock who is across the street. He's not the intended victim. He returns fire. When they process the scene, there are 9 casings go back to a 40-millimeter handgun. That's the handgun from the car. And there are 4 casings from the 45. Now, from the 45, he strikes the cruise 3 times. 1 goes in the rear window, 1 goes into the trunk to the right of the license plate, and the 3rd one goes into the driver's side, or the passenger side door. There are multiple strikes on a wall, which is maybe about 10 to 15 feet from where the cruise comes up Baldridge, and that's where the intended target was. 13 minutes into processing this particular crime, the crimes that occurred in North Braddock, a call comes in and says shots are fired in East Pittsburgh. When detectives arrive, the scene is secure. The victim, Antwon Rose, had already been transported to McKeesport Hospital. It takes approximately 5 minutes to get from the site in North Braddock to the site where shots are fired in East Pittsburgh. Driver of the vehicle is in passenger with the dark T-shirts in the wind. They have several departments that are looking for him. By all accounts, Mr. Rose never did anything in furtherance of any crimes in North Braddock. I know there's been some speculation in the media.
Antwon Rose.
Or possibly the day before, Hester was apprehended by the sheriff's fugitive team. He's currently lodged at Human Center. He'll be charged with various crimes under what we refer to as Act 33 under Pennsylvania law. According to the witnesses, the other passenger in the dark T-shirt. There's another witness with a video. He's using a camera phone. The video doesn't add much to the evidence in the case. The car was processed, and they found 2 weapons in the vehicle. One is a 9mm weapon that was stolen. It's under the front seat towards the front of the car. The .40 caliber was also stolen. It goes back to 3 or 4 other crimes. It's under the front seat towards the rear. And it is the .90 caliber weapon that was used in connection with the shooting in North Braddock. The medical examiner did the autopsy and submitted various reports. Antwon Rose was hit 3 times. He was hit in the side of the face, in the cheek. The bullet exits through the nasal cavity. He's also hit in the right elbow from the rear. That's a through and through wound. He's hit in the mid-back, and that slug was recovered in his chest. That's the fatal shot. As I said before, that 9mm slug matches Rosfeld's service weapon. The at-scene Facebook posting is consistent with the independent witnesses' statements. And as I said before, there's no weapon that would have created a risk to Officer Rosfeld. Based on evidence, I find that Rosfeld's actions were illegal. It's my position that he is not entitled to a justification charge to a jury as a defense, inasmuch as, under Pennsylvania law, if you are effectuating an arrest, you have to show the person person to be arrested has committed a forcible felony. As I said already, Antwon Rose didn't do anything in North Braddock other than be in that vehicle. And you have to possess a weapon. Neither of those young men were in possession of a weapon. Or you have to otherwise indicate that somebody is in a position to take human life, and that is not the case here. Now, these are based upon jury instructions in a Superior Court case out of Philadelphia. Tenure. You're aware that I directed that one count of criminal homicide be filed in connection with this case as it was in the prior two, given the same scenarios. I credit our chiefs of police and the ladies and gentlemen for getting it. So for instance, last year alone, we had 1.2 million, too many, but he's very forthcoming. Of course, he's looking at, driving somebody to the scene of a shooting has criminal implications. So he was very forthcoming with county police.
Can you say more about the exact charges and when we'll learn them? I know there's a series of possibilities. Is that something that's going to be determined by a jury? Will the charges be narrowed? And what are the potential penalties attached?
The charges against the officer?
Yes.
One count of criminal homicide. The evidence supports third-degree murder. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Manslaughter, voluntary manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter. But we think we should have the right to argue
the guy who's still in the wind
murder in the first degree.
What would be the penalty like?
is the person who
First-degree murder,
attempted to kill
that's
someone.
life. Third degree is 20 to 40 years. Manslaughter is 3.5 to 7.
Steve, can you break down why you think believe that Antwon Rose had a dark object in his hand? You dispute that, sir?
We took a statement from Rosfeld. He's on audio and video. He indicates that at no time was there a weapon in play.
DA,
Yes, sir.
did you feel pressure to charge in this case?
No, sir. I've been doing this for a long time.
The community protest, the outrage from the family, you felt no pressure at all to charge?
No, I did not. As I said, this is the third time we've had this particular fact scenario during my tenure. Charged the first 2 times, we're charging this time.
How would you describe the actions of Officer Rosfeld that night?
I think I just did.
Steve, did Antwon Rose fire a gun at all that night?
Pardon me?
Do you believe Antwon Rose fired a gun at all that night?
No, he did not.
Are you aware of a history of this sort of incident in Officer Rosfeld's past? And what, if anything, can you share or have you learned about the circumstances of his departure from his previous job at the University of Pittsburgh or any other?
The county police has all his personnel files, and I don't want to get into that today, but we're aware of his background.
The criminal complaint against the officer refers to his initial reference to seeing something in a hand, and then he makes a different statement later. The complaint describes that as inconsistency. Can you explain the differences between what he said and what you used?
Well, he specifically says that he didn't see a weapon.
It said
That's significant.
in the statement, though, he said that he believed that he saw a dark object.
Yeah, that's inconsistent with the witness statements. It's inconsistent with the YouTube video.
Does he need to see a gun or just something he believes is in it?
The jury instruction says there has to be a deadly weapon.
Did Officer Rosfeld express that he was afraid at the time of the shooting, and if so, why didn't he fire a pepper?
I don't know that. I know he was remorseful.
Do you know that he was on the third time that you've had a situation like this? Did you say the other 2 cases were?
Yeah, one involved a City of Pittsburgh police officer on 2nd Avenue, and one involved a Housing Authority police officer in the Armstrong tunnels. Both times, all 3 times, somebody was shot in the back, and they were not a threat to the police officer who was engaged in whatever.
This is the third time he's...
But I doubt that a taser could have been used. But a taser could have been used.
About the shooting in North Braddock and what impact that would have had on the shooting in East Pittsburgh on Officer Rosfeld when he does stop a car involved in what he suspects was involved. Then
I think you got to go in with. You got 3 guys in the car. You wait for backup. I'm sorry, I don't follow you.
At the end of the criminal complaint, the detectives know that he told
Actually, I believe it's 3. The object, the lack of a gun, because that's a jury question.
DA, what's your message to Antwon's family?
We had a very nice conversation. They're very decent people, distraught about the loss of their son, who by all indications is a good kid. I'm going to keep that private between us, but it was a good conversation.
And to the community?
You can't take somebody's life under these circumstances.
Steve, you said previously that Antwon Rose had a key in his pocket.
Yes.
Do you know the genesis of that, or where that came from?
Yeah, we're speculating. The gun was stolen. The clip is what the original clip was for the 9mm. It changed. There's 2 guns in the car. There's a 40 and a 9. Both guns are stolen. The 9's under the front seat. The 9 is never discharged. The 40 is discharged, and it's from the rear seat. And you guys are going to get the video feeds from both North Braddock, and you've probably already seen the feeds on YouTube. But clearly, the person whose arm is out the window with gun extended has a black T-shirt on. And there's other evidence too that indicates that Hester's the shooter.
So where did this empty clip come?
It was already in the weapon. Yes.
The original clip for the weapon that had been replaced.
You take the clip out because it's only 9 shots. You take an extended clip and you put it in at 17. It's a trend.
So it was never discharged. It's not an empty.
The 9mm was never discharged. Correct.
Did you say that Officer Roscoe, did he at any point say that he feared his life was in danger?
I don't know if he said that in his interview or not.
And also, you stated that to keep out the car, that the procedure is to stop the disabled vehicle. But you seem to indicate that he could have just waited for backup rather than trying to do things he did. You're saying he went against protocol or against training?
Normally you wait for backup, yes. When you have multiple persons in the vehicle.
You said that you had evidence to charge him with at least third-degree murder and then voluntary and involuntary manslaughter, but you made a decision to go with first-degree murder. Was that ultimately your decision? Can you talk about the decision to go with that first-degree charge?
Yeah, usually we charge criminal homicide, just one count, generally. That goes back to when we had a coroner instead of a medical examiner, because we were getting pretty bad decisions out of the coroner's office.
Yeah.
So to
Makes sense.
clarify, general charge of homicide, which has, as Mike explained before, the range of possibility
Yes.
from first to third.
Yes.
To clarify your remarks earlier, which you said clearly there's evidence for a third, saying that that's what you would file. Are you saying the evidence at minimum shows that you will prosecute seeking first degree?
Right now, we would ask a jury to consider all degrees of homicide.
So narrowing it will be in the hands of the jury, not, you'll leave that to the jury should it have a trial.
Right. And that's why we do that, because the coroner was making the determination and not a jury.
You did say that you believe you have the right to argue for first degree.
Yes, ma'am.
Did your office argue against Officer Roscoe being released on bond?
We objected to it, yes.
Can you talk about that?
Well, you have an officer in the county jail otherwise. I'm not sure safety considerations, security considerations, that type of thing. We objected, and we've taken that matter under advisement. I haven't made a decision what I want to do yet.
So this is too early to talk about lessons learned. We talk about training. Does there need to be more training? Do you have any thoughts on what needs to happen in the law?
Yeah. We have, in Allegheny County, we have the Allegheny County Chiefs of Police Association, which is a really progressive professional group of law enforcement members. Those guys come out with model policies. They can't obligate individual police departments to follow those policies. So in this case, yeah, I am concerned of the lack of policies and procedures in East Pittsburgh. And East Pittsburgh, by the way, is not the city of Pittsburgh. It's a separate municipality towards eastern part of the county. We have 118 police departments, some of which are run very well, some of which we have to keep an eye on all the time. But that's a creature of the legislature. If the legislature wants to do something about it, we're all here today. Let's tell them to do it.
The legislature will never do anything about it. That's the sad story truth.
Tests are pending.
You don't know?
At this point, we do not know. Probably there is not going to be residue because the gun was far enough out the window that it wouldn't have blown back.
On Hester.
On Hester. But clearly Hester's the shooter.
Did you test Rose too?
Yes.
those are pending?
Those are pending.
Steve, going back to the law, can you talk about the idea of an officer fleeing felon and whether or not that can be justification for an officer shooting somebody who may have just previously been involved in a potentially serious felony?
Yeah, under the arrest scenario, generally speaking, an officer has to be in fear of death or serious bodily injury. Then you can return that threat with appropriate force. If you're trying to effectuate an arrest, then what you have to show is several things. You have to show that there was a forcible felony. Okay, shooting at somebody in North Braddock could be considered a forcible felony, but it was committed by Rose. It was not committed. It was committed by Hester, not by Antwon. But you also have to show that a weapon's involved, or that you are otherwise in serious, there's the possibility of serious bodily injury. Those elements clearly are not there.
Steve, talking about the gun, that you said Antwon Rose did not fire a gun, but him being in the car at that drive-by shooting, does that make him a party to the crime?
No.
But the driver is a party to the crime.
The driver could be.
What is the difference there?
Well, we need him as a witness.
Do you know how Antwon Rose happened to be in that car, or what led up to his decision to be involved in this?
We have an idea of motive, but I can't comment on motives. Yes.
Do you have any concerns, or can you talk about any concerns you have about East Pittsburgh's policies and procedures or lack of East Pittsburgh police?
Yeah, I'm going to take that up with the U.S. Attorney.
You know for a fact that Antwon Rose didn't know this Hester. Say about Hester, they weren't acquaintances. Are you clear on that?
Yes, they knew each other.
Steve, regarding those policies, are you saying that they did not have well-defined policies about how to conduct that traffic stop?
In response to questions by the major crime investigators when they first came on scene in East Pittsburgh, they said, well, how do you handle these situations? What's your policy? And they said, we don't have policies. That's a very dangerous situation.
What was that?
They don't have policy for what? East Pittsburgh police?
For anything, as far as we know.
Steve, is the U.S. Attorney's Office pursuing a civil rights case against Rosfeld in any way?
We've been in touch with the FBI, yes.
Did Roswell get his training?
Primarily with the University of Pittsburgh. He was 10 years with those guys. This isn't like his first stop.
Can you talk some more about the danger of not having a policy for procedures?
Somebody's dead. Can there be any more dangerous situation? We objected to it.
Say again?
We objected to the bond that was issued.
But going forward, are you likely, or do you expect within the next week or so to bring that matter before an Allegheny County judge?
Yeah, the way bond works in Allegheny County is initially it's a judicial function. So initially, what you do is if you hit the county jail, then you go in front of an arraigning magistrate. The intake people are there, the bail agency's there, and the public defender's office is there. We don't participate in those types of matters. By constitution, if you charge generally homicide, then you shouldn't be able to be bailed. And the magistrate set the bail at $250,000 unsecured. So that's a matter that I'll talk to Judge Manning, because he hears appeals from bond issues.
Can you say it, just to clarify, do you intend to pursue that? Are you ruling out pursuing that?
Well, I'll talk to my team and see if that affects how we're going to try the case and make a decision.
The processing here took about an hour. Generally, in Kansas City, 8 to 10 hours. Was there special treatment at the jail?
No, this is being handled just like any other homicide.
Why was Hester firing out of the back of the car?
We have an idea of that, but it deals with motive, and I can't comment. I'm not permitted to comment under the rules of professional conduct.
Can you talk about the protests at all? What's your reaction to what's been happening here in your county?
I'm taking care of business.
I don't mean whether you feel pressured. I mean just in general, the blocking of the streets, the protests happening.
I don't know that I really do have an opinion. I mean, the people own the criminal justice system, and if they've got issues with it, I think they have the right to express that.
Steve, do you believe this could be a test case having a blanket ruling that an officer cannot shoot a fleeing suspect?
It's not a blanket ruling.
No.
As I said before, the Superior Court addressed this in the mid-'90s.
Same in
in terms of
Illinois.
the jury instruction. That was appealed to the
There is no
Pennsylvania
rule.
Supreme Court, which was denied. It was heard on a collateral appeal in the federal courts in Philadelphia, who upheld the Superior Court's determination.
You believe that should be the standard?
It is the standard.
I mean, the standard of an officer it's not being proper procedure in any event to shoot a fleeing suspect.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I just told you the circumstances under which it is appropriate to use deadly force if you're effectuating an arrest.
Steve, do you think Antwon Rose was just in the wrong place at the wrong time?
I can't speak to that. I mean, he's in the car, but he didn't do anything in furtherance of, if you want to call it a conspiracy, he didn't do anything in furtherance of that.
Given the clip in his pocket that you established he was the front seat passenger and the weapon was under the seat or on the front seat, you infer that he was in possession of a stolen weapon based on that?
You could infer that, yes. There's other evidence, but that's really of no moment when we're talking about a homicide.
So it's not relevant to the officer's actions or his status, Rose's own status in that instance?
The possession of an empty clip? No, doesn't have anything to do with our thought processes.
Roswell has a complicated history with the University of Pittsburgh. Can you talk about how he got hired by the Police Department?
I'm not going to get into personnel issues. I mean, that may be relevant at the time of trial. Again, I'm talking to you guys from the substance of an affidavit that supports a criminal complaint. So that I'm limited to discussing the issues that are in the affidavit.
Rose's attorney has said that there were some previous instances where Roosevelt assaulted people or acted inappropriately. I know you want to get into details, but have you found any evidence of any previous misconduct?
We have his entire personnel file. Chief Loftus, who's the chief of the University of Pittsburgh Police, was formerly the chief of Miami Metro, so he knows what he's doing, and we talked to him at length.
Are you going to release the personnel file?
Pardon me?
Are you going to release the personnel file?
It's not part of the prosecution.
Well, without getting into specifics again, I mean, is this what you saw?
Okay, so in summary, and I don't know how many people wound up watching, but here's what I got out of it. Antwon Rose was in possession of an empty clip that belonged to a gun that wasn't even in the car. Completely different type of gun. There were two guns in the car. Both had the actual criminal that was being pursued's fingerprints on them. The driver of the car was just an Uber driver that had picked them both up from the same neighborhood at the same time, who unwittingly drove them to the scene of a crime. Antwon Rose was on his way to a different location. Antwon Rose was innocent, but shot 3 times in the back by an officer who wasn't following the correct procedures under Pennsylvania law. That sums that up. But police shootings of black potential suspects have gone up since 2016's election. Massively gone up. So there is a chance, however slim, that this was a racially motivated crime. But that will not be taken into account in the trial due to the fact that there is no evidence in his personnel file that supports it. Alright. Thank you all for watching, and you have a good one.